I'm here with Owen Taylor, and today we're going to be talking about how to obtain the digital nomad visa in 2025, a full comprehensive guide. Owen, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Thomas. A pleasure to see you.
Pleasure to see you.
Yes.
And for those who don't know Owen is a lawyer here who specializes in immigration and foreign investment, licensed lawyer. Owen, you actually flew in from Bogota to Colombia to do this with us today. So thank you so much. And
thank you, Thomas.
If you don't mind, just introducing yourself a little briefly here, and then we'll dive into how to get the digital nomad visa.
Absolutely. Thank you for your intro. My name is Owen. I just flew in from Bogota. Actually, that's home, but Medellin is where my heart is. I spend most of my days actually in Medellin. I should move here. It's a great place for expats.
Why not? It is.
It's a great expat place. When it comes to my profession, I'm a Colombian attorney, licensed to practice law here in Colombia, fully bilingual, and I'm a solo practitioner. So I also just basically work with the expats community here in Medellin, Colombia, and Colombia overall, Cartagena, Barranquilla, some other places, all over Colombia, and with foreign investments for real estates or corporations, and as well immigration matters related to investments or family-related situations as well.
Amazing. So walk us through the digital nomad visa. I myself, you actually helped me get mine twice. So I'm a second, well, actually it just expired. So I just got through my second digital nomad visa. And the experience was pretty smooth. I know that a lot has changed since they first released it with some more documentation, different things. So if you don't mind, just kind of high level, the first question that I have is, what is the requirements, who qualifies, and what kind of documentation is required to apply to get this visa?
Sure. This visa was created back in 2022. You were actually one of the first generation digital nomads, Colombian digital nomad visa holders, actually. The digital nomad visa is cyclical. That means it's not a visa you could use for permanent residence in Colombia. So it has a time limit where you can use the visa. The word nomad itself tells you what it is. A nomad is someone that comes to a place, uses their resources. Once the resources are over, they move somewhere else. In this case, the resource is time. So once you exceed 2 years, most likely your visa is not going to be approved once more for a third year, because the message you're sending is, I want to be a migrant. I want to be a resident. No, I want to be a nomad. So that's why if someone is considering to apply for a digital nomad visa to Colombia or Medellin, you need to keep in mind that's a temporary visa. That could be up to 2 years. The visa could be approved for a year. Then you can renew for a second year. And in very few cases, you can get the visa approved for 2 years right away. So in your case, you did 1 year, then we renew it for a second year. And then for a third year, most likely it's not going to happen. So you need to find a different way to stay. We will help you out to stay here in Colombia for sure.
I appreciate that. And so the digital nomad visa allows you to stay past the tourist, which is, I believe, 180 days.
That's correct.
That you get automatically.
Yeah, I mean, some nations, some citizens, they do have a no visa program or a visa waiver program to Colombia. For example, if you're from Canada, from Australia, from the European Union, the United States, you can fly to Colombia as a tourist without a visa, just with your valid passport. And then you can stay up to 180 days per calendar year visiting Colombia, right?
Okay.
If you obtain your digital nomad visa, you can extend that stay up to a year or two, depending for how long the visa is approved for. Now, the other side of the question is, what documents do I need to become a digital nomad holder in Colombia, visa holder in Colombia? Well, the first key is your passport. You must have a valid passport from one of the countries that are not required to have a visitor's visa to Colombia. For example, you're from the United States. You don't need a visa as a tourist to come for a short stay in Colombia up to 180 days. Then you qualify to apply for a digital nomad visa. If you were from Pakistan or any other country that requires a tourist visa to come and enter Colombia, you don't qualify for a digital nomad visa, you see? So it's not open for every single nationality, just for those nationalities whose citizens do not need a visa to enter Colombia as tourists.
Okay, so if you're from Canada, if you're from the United States, you have a passport there.
Correct.
You're a citizen there. You can come here for 180 days. But if you want to stay, and it's 180 days per calendar year.
Correct.
Is that so? So the example could be I come, let's say in October, I stay October, November, December, that's 3 months. And then it turns to the next year. Does that mean if I am still in the country that 180 days resets, or do I have to leave and come back?
That's a good question, and I get it all the time. It does not reset. It does not reset, so to say, automatically. It doesn't roll over. You need to exit the country before December 31st.
Okay.
Or ideally latest December 31st, and then return in the new year. So January.
And that will reset.
And that will give you technically 180 days to stay on that next year.
Got it. Okay.
So you got to be really careful with that practice because the immigration officers are still discretionary. So if they see you're using it to your favor at any given time, they could just stop you at the border, meaning at the airport, and not allow entry for you.
And has that happened?
It happens very rarely. It happened maybe twice ever since I started practicing immigration in Colombia, but it could happen. So once again, it doesn't roll over and it doesn't accumulate your time. If you didn't use all my 180 days the previous year, now I have 200 or 250. No, that doesn't work like that. But if you exit the country before the New Year's and enter in the new year, then you technically should have 180 days to spend on that new year.
Okay. So let's say you're in the country, it's been 180 days, and December is still 6 months away. You want to get the digital nomad visa.
That's correct. Right? It's always more solid to have a visa on hand than just playing around with days, counting days in your life, you know?
So let's say we're in that scenario. You need a passport. What are the other requirements?
Right. The passport, there is something very important here, and it must be valid for more than 6 months in order to be able to apply for a visa. Actually, any type of visas in Colombia requires that your passport must be valid for more than 6 months at the moment of the visa application. So if your passport is about to run out of time, first you need to renew your passport, then you apply for the visa.
Okay.
All right. You're required to have a digital passport size picture with a white background. This sounds like, okay, that's very easy. But believe me, it's one of those pitfalls where everyone commits mistakes. Why? Because many people, for religious purposes or medical issues, do wear glasses. So they send pictures with glasses or religious hats or anything covering their faces or their hats. Not allowed. So you must have a clean face, no hats, no glasses, even if for medical or religious purposes. Okay. So that's something very key on that. Then we need your last entry stamp into Colombia. If you're applying for the visa from Colombia, you must demonstrate you are legally in the country. And then you need to have at least 30 days in order to complete a visa process. That's basically what the law says. It's up to 30 days from the moment of the visa application all the way until a decision is made. However, in very few cases, it could take a little longer. So you want to apply for your visa way ahead of time because your entry stamp is what gives the officer the clue if you're legally in the country and how many more days you have before your entry stamp will expire. The entry stamp is what you get when you come here as a tourist, for example, right? Now, you could also extend your stay. Even if you enter Colombia as a tourist, you could request an extension of stay if you don't have enough time to apply for a visa. Remember, you have up to 180 days per calendar year to stay in Colombia, but your entry stamps are usually for 90 days. Then you can request an extension of stay for another 90 days so you don't have to exit the country, and then you still can apply for your visa and wait until the outcome is out, right? 30 days. Now, if you're outside of Colombia, then you need to provide a copy of your last exit stamp from Colombia. That's to demonstrate to the consul abroad, the Colombian consul abroad, that you are not in Colombia. Because there's two different jurisdictions. You can apply for a visa while being in Colombia, right, before the Colombian visa office, which is located in Bogota, the Ministry of Foreign Relations. That's the people who will entertain your visa application if you're in Colombia legally and you have all the necessary paperwork. If you're not in Colombia, say you are in Miami or New York or Los Angeles, well, there is Colombian consulates in those cities. They will entertain your visa case as well, your visa petition, but their jurisdiction is restricted. That means if you tell the consul you are in LA, you cannot be living in Miami or in New York or being in Colombia. You understand what I'm saying here?
Yes. So what do you recommend? Is there a like certain consulates or cities that are better to apply from? Is it recommended to apply from Colombia if you can, or from the US or Mexico, or is it not
That's
matter?
a really good question. I usually recommend to apply for first timers, for those who are just coming to Colombia for the first time and would like to apply for a visa. It's better to do it before the consulate in the cities where they live. Because some of the documents, and I'm going to get there in a minute, must be requested in their country of origin. For example, police records, apostille stamps. So it's easier for you to request those documents while you're in your country, then apply for the visa and come to Colombia as a visa holder. Okay. It will be easier that way. Otherwise, you need to put in some freelancers or some intermediaries to obtain some of the documents that could increase the cost of your visa application and such. If you are in Colombia legally and you have more than 30 days and you have the necessary paperwork to apply for the visa, it's totally fine to do it from here as well. It's not any easier or any more difficult if you're in Colombia or if you're abroad. The process is exactly the same. The laws are exactly the same.
Okay.
Prices are exactly the same. That doesn't change. However, and this is not a matter of law, but a matter of what I've seen in my practice for the last 5 years, when you do apply before a Colombian consulate, they have the tendency to give you visas for a little longer time. For example, in the case of digital nomads, the visa is up to 2 years. If you apply in the Colombian office, before the Colombian office here, because you're already in the country, they usually will approve you for 1 year that you need to renew for a second year. That was exactly your case.
Yes.
But if you do apply while being in your country of origin, I've seen more cases of visas being approved for 2 years right away. So then you save some money and some time renewing a visa right after 1 year.
Yes. Another thing, which I know you're going to mention, a requirement is the insurance, right?
Yes.
And one thing that I learned from talking to some people who applied is if you get the insurance, and the visa gives you up to 2 years, but you only get the insurance for 1 year, it will automatically limit your eligibility to get it for 2 years. And is that true? If you get a 2-year insurance policy, that you're more likely to get a 2-year visa?
It is true when it comes to the experience. It's not what the law says, right?
Yeah.
The law just basically says you must demonstrate you do have insurance in Colombia that covers your medical emergencies, non-emergencies, and repatriation if needs be. And if you were a woman or a female, then it needs to cover also maternity in case you get pregnant in Colombia. Okay. Now, the law doesn't specify if the insurance is for a year, I'll give you a visa for a year. If the insurance is for 2 years, I'll give you a visa for 2 years. However, in the practice, it does happen that way. Now, I've seen it myself both ways. I've seen cases of people applying through my service in my office with a 1-year health insurance policy and being approved for a 2 years visa.
Okay.
While I've seen people that buy 2 years insurance policies and then just get approved for 1 year visa. Okay. So it truly depends on the will of the visa agent reviewing your case once you apply. Because the visa authority is discretionary. That means if they do want to approve you or not, regardless if you have presenting all the necessary documents and pay all the fees, they do it or they just don't. Because it's a matter of the sovereign power of the Republic of Colombia. So it's not your right to apply for a visa. It's a benefit you're asking from them. Now, in Colombia, and this is to finish the answer, it's very difficult to buy insurance policies for more than a year.
Really?
There are very few insurers that will issue you one insurance policy that will covers you for 2 years. It's usually a yearly thing. Now, the trick, if I'm allowed to say, I've seen in cases is people buy 2 different policies from the same company because you could buy policies for the future. So, for example, you buy one from today is May 12, 2025, and another one that will start immediately May 12, 2026. Then you add up the 2 policies to the visa process. And with that, you're demonstrating you have 2 years to see if that increases the probable outcome.
And what do you recommend? I believe I paid like $700, $900 for the year. It was very affordable. And I think it was Sura. Sure. But what do you recommend for insurance for if they're just wanting to get a visa here and fill in the requirements of?
There is lots of competitors in the market. Luckily, the Colombian law doesn't require it must be a local insurer. It could be a foreign insurer as well. So my best advice is do shopping first in Colombia, right? Because usually prices for healthcare are way lower in Colombia than abroad, than in Canada or the US. And then do your online shopping as well. Now, in Colombia, I've been basically seeing that one of the top or the best would be Continental Assist. It's an American company that also is incorporated in Colombia, and they do offer policies for the future, as I said. So you can buy 1 year or 2 years, while the local market, for example, Sura, that you mentioned, they usually just work for 1 year insurance. So in those cases, you're restricting your possibilities to get a 2 years visa the first time.
Got it. Okay. So we got the visa, or we got the passport, we got the insurance.
We got the picture, which is very important.
The picture too.
Yeah. And the entry or exit stamp in your passport, depending if you're applying from Colombia or if you're applying in a consulate. Those are some general documents that you need. Then we come to one of the most difficult ones. This started basically about 4 months or 5 months ago. Unfortunately, because of the misbehavior of some expats in the city of Medellin, it basically splashed over Colombia. And now every single applicant for a digital nomad visa, Colombian digital nomad visa, is being required a copy of their criminal records with an apostille stamp. A little bit difficult to obtain in some countries. I've noticed that in some countries like the United Kingdom, for example, it's fairly easy to obtain your criminal records, and it's fairly easy to obtain your apostille. It's basically online. In Canada, it takes some time, but it's not that difficult. In the United States, it's more difficult because the only police record or criminal records admitted for American citizens is the FBI records. Right? Not the local police office in your hometown or state police office. No, you got to request that from the FBI, and then you need to send it to the Department of State office for an apostille stamp. Since the FBI is a federal entity, not a state entity, then the only office that could basically apostille those documents are the Department of State office based in Washington, D.C. So all that takes between 4 to 6 weeks for you to obtain your FBI records and the apostille stamp from the Department of State office. For other countries are fairly easier because they are not federal governments. It's kind of like an unitary republic or very centralized governments. So you just go to that one office and they issue these police records and immediately an apostille stamp. The US is a little bit more complicated. Now, it's not impossible. It's just a little bit more complicated. If you do have any type of criminal records, maybe you were arrested and such, that immediately start to diminish the possibilities for you to obtain a digital nomad visa to come to Colombia. All right. So it's always very important to keep in mind, you know what you've done in order, before you make the step, just consult possibly with your attorney of choice. I'm here also to help. And we can make an assessment if what you did in the past will or not affect the outcome of your possible visa as a digital nomad.
Absolutely. And okay, so we got the criminal record. Is there anything else that's also needed?
No. Well, yes, sorry, my bad. There's something very important, but it's fairly easy to obtain. It's basically an employment letter. The digital nomad visa is for those working remotely, not that you're coming to Colombia searching for employment. So since you're working remotely, either as an entrepreneur that you own your own company, or you're working as a freelancer or a independent contractor, then you just request an employment letter from the company you're working for, or if you own your own corporation, then you can demonstrate such. If you are a partner in a corporation abroad and your income comes from that corporation, then you can demonstrate so. A copy of the contract, if you do have it, and also just to certify through your bank statements and your employment letter that you're making an income no less than 3 Colombian minimum wages per month. That is around $1,016 per month for the last 3 months before you apply for your visa.
Got it.
So once you can demonstrate with your passport and the entry stamp that you're legal in Colombia or back in your country of origin through the exit stamp, you have a passport which is valid for more than 6 months. You do have a digital passport picture with a white background, and then you demonstrate that you have an income through your employment letter, your contract, and your last 3 bank statements, and then your insurance and the police records with the apostille stamp. You're set to go.
Okay, so you have everything. and you apply for the visa, what's that look like in terms of time? How long is that going to take for you to hear back?
It's actually a beautiful thing because in Colombia it's fairly fast, believe it or not, to get a visa through a visa process. By law, it says up to 30 days. The visa authority has to give you a final answer from the moment you apply and pay for the application fee, which by the way is $55 to the government. They have 30 days to give you a final answer. Okay. Of course, throughout the time, they could request maybe some corrections on your documents, or maybe to add any extra explanations or extra documents they would like to entertain. So that's why it's very important to always have a professional helping out, because it's not just a matter of filing the papers. Throughout the visa process, many things could happen. All right. So consider that. 30 days is the max. If you're in Colombia, you must be legal in Colombia at all times during the whole process. That's why I'm saying you need to have at least 30 days validity on your entry stamp in order to complete the visa process. If you're home, then easier because you don't need to demonstrate you're legally in your own country of origin, so to say. So 30 days, the visa comes out. And once the visa has been approved, you pay the second fee, which is the visa issuance fee. For this month, May 2025, is still $171, the government fee. So the visa gets issued, which is beautiful because in many other countries, you have to pay for the visa process upfront, the total. But if the visa is denied, you don't get any money back. So here in Colombia, it's fairly fast. Up to 30 days. If all the documents are ready, I've gotten visas approved in a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think you got mine in like 2 weeks, I want to say.
Because, of course, we work out the process with you beforehand, and we did a thorough investigation of your documents. We made sure you had all the documents, and then we apply. The problem is that many times people decide to do it on their own hands, which is okay if you understand how that works. But if you're missing something, then the visa authorities start to hit your email, requesting more documents, more explanations, and then you open up a window for them to do more investigations that perhaps you don't want them to go to.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that brings up a point that it's so important to work with someone that you know has the experience and also that's licensed, because you're licensed here. So if you're working with someone who isn't licensed, they may be handing off to someone who can make mistakes. And I actually have a personal story of 2 or 3 of my friends who were here on the 180 days and they wanted to stay longer. And so they started the visa process for the Nomad visa, and they got recommended this lawyer. I don't remember her name or his name, but she was handling, they paid him or her the fees, and she was doing all the work. But it turns out she made multiple mistakes, and they ran out of time and they had to leave the country because all these mistakes that happened.
And it's more expensive because you got to pay flights to go home.
It was just a disaster. And so, it was like not just one, it was 2 or 3.
The instability that brings to your life. Maybe you already have a contract. I have had those cases as well. People is already, for example, they rented an apartment for a year, expecting their visas. A month, 2 or 3, the visa never come. They got to leave the country. Then you have to pay penalties for the breaching your lease contract and so on. So it can get you in undesired circumstances for not using the right people. Now, there is another thing I would like to add up here. Many attorneys in Colombia do have a license, but very few of us practice immigration law. So I can tell you I'm an attorney, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm fully versed when it comes to immigration matters.
It's true. Yeah, I think that's super important here, because what you'll find is, one, it's harder to find someone like yourself who's licensed and that specializes in immigration and that speaks English, as a dual citizen in the U.S.
I try my best. I do my best.
So you have all of the things that a lot of expats are looking for, but then also having someone that's reputable, that you can trust, and that is up to date on the latest requirements, because things are always changing.
That's correct.
Laws are changing.
That's correct. Even though if you look at the law, if you just read the law, it doesn't tell you need your police records and apostille stamp. And by the way, those documents must be officially translated to Spanish. Okay. We also offer official translation service in my office, so that's why my clients don't have to run around looking for that. But if you do not have an attorney or an office that provides official translations, which is not a Google translated machine document, it has to be sealed and signed by an official translator that has a license, then also becomes a nightmare for you to do that in the middle of a visa process, because you don't see that in the law, you don't see that on the website. But I guarantee you it's going to be requested.
And anyone who's listening to this, I mean, it's just not worth the hassle. I've met a couple people who've done it themselves or tried doing it themselves. And I mean, working with someone like yourself, it really isn't that expensive for what you're getting in the expertise.
That's
and
correct.
The last thing I'll just add in there too, why I recommend working with someone like yourself, or really anyone that you know is trusted, is a lot of the lawyers here will say they know what they're doing just so they can get the business.
Oh, yeah, correct.
They might be an expert in a completely different area, but when you come to them and they say, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z, can you help me? They'll say, oh yeah, of course. And they really can't. But with you, if there's an area outside of your expertise, you have a network where you can say, actually work with this person. I recommend him for this. This is my specialty, which is immigration and foreign investment.
That's correct. Now, for that point, I would like to say something. If you go to the website of the American Embassy in Colombia, they do have a link that says services for U.S. citizens. If you're not a U.S. citizen, I still recommend you to search that link if you need 3 things: medical services. The American Embassy in Colombia does a thorough investigation of which places offers you really good medical services, right? Legal services and notarization services as well. So in the legal services, there is a couple of attorneys, and I said a couple because there might be 2 million attorneys in Colombia. I don't know the number, well, thousands, but there are only like 50 of us listed by the Embassy of the United States here in Colombia as reputable legal sources in order to help you out with your legal matters. Very few of those practice immigration. Lots of those practice criminal law, family law, some other areas. So my name is in it. And that means it's a seal basically by the American Embassy, not necessarily recommending my services, but telling you, hey, there is a serious legal attorney here who could help you out in your matters in Colombia. Amazing. That's one. The other one is I grew up professionally in the United States, so I understand the mindset of Americans and foreigners overall. I was an immigrant myself. As I said, I was living for a long time in Europe. I was living for a long time in the United States. Then I decided to come home and establish my practice solo in immigration matters. So I understand the needs. I understand the despair to obtain a visa when you are the mother or the father of a Colombian baby. For example, if you don't get that visa done, you might have to leave the country. And what about your family? What about your business, your apartment, and so on? So I understand all that. Many attorneys in Colombia, as you just said, will take the business, but they don't truly understand the needs of an immigrant. They just see it from the business point of view, and they do not share the professional values of professionals in the United States. So that's why I truly connect with the expats community. I've been working just with expats. I don't take business from Colombian citizens because what I practice is basically for expats in Colombia. So I'm very well connected and another reputation here in Colombia, offering basically immigration services and foreign direct investments as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Owen, thanks for being here. For anyone who's listening to this and you are a member of our private business network here, Owen's our go-to lawyer when it comes to foreign investments as well as immigration. And he provides VIP services for our members. So you can either find him through our directory or reach out to the community manager and we can make an introduction. And for those who are watching this online and they want to get in contact with you, where can they find you? Where can they reach out and get your contact?
Well, I hope you're a member of Thomas Group, so you could also reach out to Thomas. But I do have my website. It's very, very easy, owentaylorlaw.com. You'll find me there. And also my email address is owen@owentaylorattorney.com. So you can reach out with any questions you do have, or just send me a message through my website, owentaylorlaw.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Sir. It's good to see you again.
Absolutely.